The candles of the house of black and white, guttered in a draught no one felt, their thin blue flames bending toward a door that had not opened in years. Beneath their wavering glow, the pillars crowded with death masks seemed to inhale, as though stone and leather might breathe again when only ashes remained. Arya Stark, lean and silent in a plain linen robe, knelt on the marble tiles before the tranquil pool. Her reflection trembled with each ripple, shifting between the wolf girl who had once stalked corridors in Winterfell and the nameless acolyte she now pretended to be. She had come to offer the gift, yet her hands were empty, and in that emptiness the kindly man saw purpose. He stood at the edge of the water, hood shadowing eyes that glittered like glass beads. "You do not drink," he said, voice soft as dust settling. "I do not need to," Arya answered, though she had been told never to speak unless questioned. The rule mattered less tonight. All the rules seemed thinner, like parchment scraped and scraped, until a breath might tear it. She lifted her chin, and the torchlight caught the faint scar that curved below her left eye. "The many-faced God has not called me." "No. He calls to others." The kindly man let silence pour itself around them until the pool's surface stilled. Then he extended a bony hand. On his palm lay a coin smaller than a fingernail, milky white, carved from a shard of dragon bone. The coin bore no sigil Arya recognized, only a swirl of lines that joined and doubled back, an endless knot with neither beginning nor end. Her breath snagged. Dragonbone was rare, more precious than rubies in the free cities. Only the seneschals of the house used such tokens when death must be dealt by more than a knife in a dark alley. "For me? For you to carry," he agreed. "Not today. Today you must listen." Behind him, the doors that had not opened pulled inward on hinges older than the doom. From their gap flowed a darkness deeper than night on the stepstones, accompanied by the smell of salt graveyards and candles snuffed by the wind. Two men emerged in robes of smoke-gray silk, their faces hidden behind masks hammered from beaten iron. One mask was smooth, eyeless and mouthless. The other bore countless pinpricks as if struck by needles until the pattern became a swarm. Arya rose, heart pounding like a war drum. She recognized neither man nor mask, yet instinct whispered of rank. They moved with the certainty of those who had never stumbled. Behind them walked Jaqen Hagar. He wore no mask tonight. His hair, half red and half white, hung to his shoulders, framing a smile that had once promised her new names and revenge. Now it promised something larger. Something that scraped at her ribs, hungry as a wolf in midwinter. "A girl has served well," Jaqen said, echoing a phrase that had guided her training. "A gift has been given. Now a greater gift is required." The smooth masked man spoke in a language she had never heard, syllables shaped like water dripping on stone. Jaqen translated. "Long have the faceless awaited a voice to walk in sunlight and shadow alike. The old prophecies speak of one who wears many faces yet cannot be no one. One who bears the blood of wolf and the blood of the stranger, whose footsteps echo across seas and kingdoms. The guild has watched. The guild has judged. Tonight, judgment becomes promise. You are that voice, child of Winterfell." "Damned." The words struck like a crossbow bolt. Arya's first impulse was to reject them. She had spent years shedding names, dissolving Arya into nothingness. Yet names clung like burrs. Needle had whispered her name each night, and the wolves that prowled her dreams howled it to the moon. Now strangers named her again, prophet, voice, chosen. Across the pool, the masks on the pillars seemed to lean forward to listen. The kindly man did not speak. His silence urged her to fill it. "What does a prophet do?" she asked, throat dry. "Sees what is hidden and reveals it," Jaqen replied. "Calls death where death must fall. Guides life where life is needed. Tells the world that the many-faced God is not only the end of stories, but the hand that writes them. I thought we dealt only in endings. All endings begin somewhere." Arya considered the pool's dark water. She had once been blind, wandering bravos in pale fog, forced to trust ears and skin. She had learned that blindness was not emptiness, but another way of seeing. Perhaps prophecy was the same, another sight layered over her two gray eyes. Still, she felt the pull of Westeros, the call of the pack. Her sister sat on a seat of ice and stone, her brother guarded broken walls, her king, if Jon still lived, roamed lands beyond maps. Could she serve death and family at once? She lifted the dragonbone coin. It's not glimmering. If I accept, what changes? Nothing. The kindly man finally spoke, his smile as gentle as snowfall. And everything. You will still serve. You will still obey. Yet no mask will fully hide you now. The world must know the face through which we speak. Then shall. The wolf's face, murmured the masked man with pinpricks. His voice was higher than she expected, almost youthful. Songs travel far in Westeros. They will not fear a mask. They will fear the truth behind your eyes. Fear. Arya knew fear intimately. Its flavor, its weight on the tongue, the way it sharpened or shattered. She had wielded fear at Harrenhal. It had walked beside her on the silent stone bridges of Braavos. Fear could be a blade, but prophecy was a wildfire that might burn more than walls. If she spoke and men listened, kingdoms could fall. Her hand closed around the coin. I must see Winterfell again. Jaqen dipped his head. So you shall. You will walk as prophet and as daughter, as no one and as Arya Stark. One life, two shadows. When you speak, your words will be ours. When you fight, your sword will answer the god within. Do you consent? 100 memories surged. Dancing lessons with Syrio Forel. Joan's warm hand closing over hers when he gave her needle. Gendry's grin on the rolling deck of a war galley. Nymeria's howl across swirling snow. Each memory was a life she had lived, a face she had worn, a truth she had sworn to keep. She bowed her head. Not in surrender, but in acceptance of what she had always been. Many and one. I consent. At once, the iron-masked men knelt. The kindly man dipped toes of his sandals into the pool, and the water shivered outward as if drawing breath. Around the hall, candles sprang to taller flame. Jaqen produced a slim vial of black glass. Within floated a single drop of dark red liquid, thicker than blood, bright as garnet. Arya recognized it from whispered tales. The tears of Lys turned inward. Poison transformed by secrets older than the freehold. The kindly man poured the drop into the pool. It bled through the water like ink swirling through milk, coil upon coil until the surface mirrored a sky streaked with storm cloud shapes. He nodded to Arya. Drink. Bendi. She knelt once more, dipped cupped hands, and lifted the darkened water to her lips. It tasted metallic, like winter air above a freshly forged sword. The hall swam. The masks blurred. Her vision tunneled, not into blackness, but into vast white corridors lit by ice-blue stars. She felt herself standing on the wall, yet taller, thicker, stretching across the width of the world. Below, shadows moved. Armies, queens, faceless kings. And overhead, a pale shape spiraled, a direwolf of snow and night, its eyes two burning coins of dragonbone white. The wolf opened its mouth. From its throat poured a river of faces, each joining and dissolving, forming the knot of endless lines engraved on the coin she held. A voice followed, deeper than thunder and quieter than falling snow. Not all whom death serves must be nameless. Some must be remembered. When she blinked, she knelt again by the pool, and Jaqen was steadying her shoulders. The hall felt smaller, walls pressing close, hungry for her answer. What did you see? The kind man asked. Home, she whispered. And beyond. Then rise, prophet. Braavos cannot hold you. Dawn broke in bruised rose hues over the canals as Arya stepped onto the quay outside the house. The sea wine smelled of tar, salt, and cinnamon from distant markets. At her side walked Jaqen and the two masked men. No boat awaited them. Instead, a sleek galley bobbed at anchor in mid-channel, sails furled, but that was not their destination. Jaqen pointed toward a dilapidated warehouse. Its stucco walls peeled like sunburnt skin, yet iron-banded doors rested ajar. Inside lay a vessel smaller than a skiff, more a coffin than a boat. Its hull was black glass, veins of cloudy crystal swirling beneath lacquered surface. Symbols etched along the rim glowed faintly blue. One masked man produced a lantern of strange design. No wick, only a chamber full of crushed fireflies that pulsed when shaken. He hung it above the vessel's prow. Arya frowned. "It will not sail. It will carry you," Jaqen assured her. "Across water, across wind, across dreams." The second masked man pressed a palm to the vessel's side. A crackle of pale light raced along the etched symbols. A seam yawned open atop the hull, revealing not planks but padded shadows, as though the vessel's interior were night-given form. Arya hesitated only a breath, then climbed in. The darkness welcomed her like a cloak. When she settled, the seam closed, leaving only a thin slit for air, and blue fire leaked around its edges. She felt weightless, though the floor did not shift like water or tilt like deck. Jaqen's voice filtered through the seam. "Close your eyes." She obeyed, and sensation fled. No pitch, no roll, no sound of oars. Time itself slowed to a single heartbeat that neither quickened nor stilled. In that silence, images streamed like silverfish under deep water. Sansa in fox fur cloak atop Winterfell's battlements. Bran seated beneath a weirwood whose red leaves whispered prophecies older than men. Jon clad in black steel forged anew, a sword of pale flame in his hand. Each turned toward her, mouths moving though no words reached her ears. Then came a different vision, a hall of pillars carved as wolves swallowing their tails, lit by torches of green fire. At its center, a stone altar dripped with fresh blood, and kneeling around it were figures wearing the faces of kings long dead. Garth Greenhand, Torrhen Stark, even Aegon the Conqueror. Above them floated a blur of shifting shapes that coalesced into her own face, eyes closed. The kings chanted a single phrase: "All men must listen." Arya gasped awake. The seam above her head opened to a sliver of gray sky. Gull cries swirled outside. The smell of pine replaced Braavosi salt. She crawled out to find herself on a shingle beach beneath towering cliffs. Behind her, the vessel collapsed inward with a sigh, its lacquered shell curling like drying leaves until only shards of glass lay on wet stones. Jaqen knelt nearby, sifting damp pebbles through his fingers. No sign remained of the masked men. Only footprints led across coarse sand toward a narrow goat path that zigzagged up the cliff. "Where are we?" Arya asked, voice echoing in the hush between waves. "On the Isle of Faces," Jaqen replied. "Though mortals seldom step foot, the trees here know you." A shiver ran her spine. She had heard tales of the Isle in the center of the God's Eye, a place where ancient weirwoods still watched. To arrive so near Winterfell's gods when Winterfell itself lay leagues to the north felt like cheating a journey, yet prophecy obeyed its own roads. They climbed. Mist clung to mossy stone, and unseen birds trilled melancholy songs. When they reached the cliff top, a ring of weirwoods stretched around a meadow, their boles coiled in each other's roots, red leaves dripping morning dew like rubies. Faces carved in their trunks bled sap that resembled tears. Arya bowed unbidden. She sensed eyes behind the carved ones, presences neither friendly nor hostile, only vast. At the circle's center squatted a half-ruined shrine of pale stone. A hooded figure waited there, antlered staff planted in the loam. His cloak was green with age, but beneath the hood glowed irises of molten gold. Jaqen spoke first. "The gift is delivered." The figure inclined his head. "Then the pact is renewed." His voice bore the rustle of leaves stirred by wind. "Child of wolf and winter, stand before the old gods and be counted." Arya stepped forward. The grass underfoot felt warm, as if sunlit, though the sky remained clouded. She glanced at Jaqen, but he had moved aside. This moment was hers alone. "You were chosen by death," the antlered man said. "But life claims you too. Long have the trees whispered of a weaver of faces who would bind what was sundered, skin-hanger to assassin, daughter to stranger, winter to autumn. Are you willing?" "I am," Arya answered. though she thought of summers she might never see, of children she might never bear, of faces she might never wear again except when duty called. Then kneel. She knelt in the grass, still beaded with dew. The antlered man dipped a finger into a bowl at the shrine's base and painted 3 symbols on her forehead: a teardrop, a wolf's head, and the endless knot from the coin. The sap smelled of smoke and frost. With each line she felt memories threading through her heart. Nymeria's wild hunts, Gendry's laughter, Sansa's fraught songs, Catelyn's stern comfort, Ned's quiet honor. They braided into a cord that pulled tight, yet did not snap. The faceless men serve death, but death serves balance. The figure whispered. So shall you. When false kings rise, your shadow shall fall across their thrones. When lies flourish, your tongue shall cut sharper than Valyrian steel. Gan. A low wind stirred, carrying scents of snow and ash. The weirwood's leaves rustled in unison, a sigh of approval or warning. Arya opened her eyes. The antlered man was gone. Jaqen waited alone by the meadow's edge. In his hand gleamed needle. "Steel sings for you," he said, offering the sword. "Use its voice wisely." She took it, feeling the leather grip mold to her palm like a handshake across years. The blade's narrow length reflected red leaves and white bark. A sword forged for a child, yet heavy now with prophecy. "Where first?" she asked. "To Winterfell," Jaqen answered. "For wolves gather against the snows. Then to King's Landing, where gold and secrets rot together. After, perhaps as far as Valyria reborn, if the dragon's whispers prove true. Your path is written in faces yet unseen." Arya breathed the cold air deep. Somewhere in Westeros, Sansa governed, Bran dreamed, Jon fought storms within and without. Somewhere, the Hound trudged roads he claimed he never wished to see again. Somewhere, Gendry hammered steel the realm might need. She would walk into their lives neither sister nor stranger but prophet, teller of endings and beginnings alike. She sheathed needle. The wolf within her lifted its head and howled, and the trees answered in creaks of wood and sighs of sap. Across the meadow, a narrow trail led north between sentinel oaks heavy with moss. She stepped onto it without hesitation. Jaqen followed, silent as his names. They left the Isle of Faces before the sun broke fully through cloud, slipping into a skiff rowed by silent boatmen, whose eyes were as black as still water. As oars glided, ripples trailed like ink across the lake, and Arya saw reflections twist, her own face merging with others. A maiden crowned in snowflakes, a crone smiles with broken teeth, a child whose eyes held night. The images dissolved, leaving only her reflection staring back, calm and unafraid. When they reached the shore and set foot on the King's Road's forgotten spur, Arya Stark, the prophet of the many-faced god, turned her gaze north and began to walk. Each step measured the distance between death and life, between silence and song, and the wind carried her name ahead to halls and hearths where prophecy was a word whispered by fools. Those who would call her savior or demon had yet to decide their prayers. For now the road welcomed her, scattered with fallen leaves, as red as blood and as fragile as promises. She would gather each promise in due time. Some to keep, some to break, some to bury under stone. Behind her, Jaqen hummed a Braavosi lullaby. Ahead, the world waited, unaware that a girl with a wolf's eyes and a stranger's smile would soon speak words no blade could parry. And when she spoke, every face, noble or nameless, would listen, for prophecy wears no mask. The King's Road branch that wound northward had long ago surrendered to encroaching scrub and knotty pines. Brambles snagged at Arya's linen hem as she threaded among gray birches, the air sharp with the scent of resin and distant smoke from charcoal burners' pits. No wheel ruts marred the packed earth, only deer prints and the faintest impression of padded paws. Somewhere beyond the next ridge, a lone wolf howled, 3 rising notes that set her heart hammering in answer. Jaqen's stride never faltered. He walked as if the thorns parted before him, red and white hair bobbing gently with each step. They spoke little. Words, he'd said once, were masks too, and prophecy preferred silence. Yet the land itself murmured. Wind hissed through grass, and the brook they crossed gurgled like a throat being cleared for some great announcement. When twilight bled purple across the sky, they emerged upon a burnt-out way station left from the wars. Half its timbers crouched like broken ribs around a blackened hearth. There, they made camp. Arya gutted 2 hares Jaqen had snared, skewering them on green willow wands. As fat hissed into embers, she studied him by the shifting glow. "You'll not follow me into Winterfell?" she guessed. "A man has other faces to wear," he agreed. "Yet a friend may linger a little." His gaze flicked to Needle, propped beside her satchel. "Steel must learn new songs. Not all enemies fall to silent gifts." She thought of the dragonbone coin in her pouch, of the endless knot. Prophets wield words, but Northmen listen best to deeds. Then let deeds speak. He tore a leg from the hare, steam curling round his fingers. "Tomorrow we reach the King's Road proper. Riders from Winterfell patrol those stretches now. Show them your face. Let the wolf cry carry." Night deepened into velvet. Stars pricked the dark roof one by one, mirrored in Jaqen's calm eyes. Arya dreamed she stood on a platform of ice above a sea of shifting visages, millions of mouths chanting her name, some in reverence, some in dread. When the chorus peaked, the ice cracked beneath her, and she fell into the pool of faces. Waking, she found dawn had already silvered the east. Jaqen was gone. In his place lay a folded scrap of parchment. "Walk alone until they meet you," it read in Braavosi glyphs. "A coin speaks loudly when tossed into still water." She packed, cinched Needle's belt around her waist, and walked. 3 days later, on a sun-splashed slope where heather drank in bees' murmur, she spied Winterfell's outriders. 5 riders mailed in gray-dyed iron, each cloak patterned with deerwool. Snowberry blossoms sprayed white behind their coursers' hooves. The lead rider, a young woman whose auburn braid streamed like a banner, spurred forward and reined up sharply. Arya saw the recognition bloom across her freckled face like dawn flaring. "Gods," the rider breathed. "It's her." Arya inclined her head. "Dana Flint, isn't it? You sparred with Podrick Payne last harvest." "Eh." Dana's jaw dropped, and 2 riders behind her exchanged astonished looks. "You were still in Braavos then?" "How?" "The trees talk," Arya said, and saw them shiver, though the day was warm. "Take me to Sansa." They rode hard, dust trailing like banners. Winterfell rose from green hills, rebuilt yet scarred. New towers of pale granite buttressed with fused stone from older ruins. On the battlements, red banners embroidered with direwolves snapped. When Arya entered the bailey, small folk paused mid-task, mouths forming her name. The smith's hammer missed its anvil. The kennel-master's curs fell silent. Even the ravens circling the rookery wheeled lower, as if to bear witness. Sansa stood beneath the inner arch, flanked by guards in black and silver. She wore a gown the blue of breaking ice and a mantle edged in white fox fur, a circlet of carved weirwood resting in her copper hair. Grace had settled on her like fresh snow. For a heartbeat, Arya saw not her sister, but a queen carved by winter's sure chisel. Then Sansa's composure cracked, and tears glittered. Arya dawdled. She came down the steps, each footfall measured, but her fingers trembled when they met Arya's cheek. "By the 7 and the old gods," I thought. "I know." Arya pressed her forehead to Sansa's shoulder, breath hitching. For that single moment she was only sister, not prophet. But prophecy stirred, impatient. She drew back, eyes bright. "We must speak in the godswood. Alone." Sansa read the urgency, and nodded. Through courtyards and halls they wound, past tapestry-covered corridors where Maester Orlin bowed low, past the training yard where young Ned Umber froze mid-swing. At the godswood gate, the guards remained outside. Beneath the great heart tree, Bran waited. A weirwood root curled like a white serpent around his carved wheelchair. His eyes, greener than summer moss, tracked Arya's approach with unblinking calm. Ravens perched along shoulders of stone wyverns nearby, silent save for a low clacking of beaks. Sansa lingered at the edge of the clearing, as though unwilling to intrude. Bran's voice was softer than memory. "The faces told me you were coming. Not in words, more in ripples." Arya knelt on the cushion of fallen red leaves. "Do they tell you why? You bear a knife made of air, and a message heavier than mountains." Bran's lips twitched almost into a smile. The old gods leaned close. Wind rustled crimson leaves overhead, sounding for a breath like distant applause. Arya drew out the dragonbone coin and placed it on Bran's lap. Dewan Dorioli. White against white, it seemed to pulse. Sansa frowned. "What is that?" "Promise." Arya met Bran's gaze. "The Faceless men have declared a crusade of sorts, but not one of swords alone. Secrets must die, lies must be slain. They call me prophet to herald this to Westeros. I need Winterfell's aid." "Dewa." "Westeros is tired of crusades," Sansa said, though her stance remained thoughtful rather than rebuking. "What lies demand slaying?" Arya's memory flickered to the visions in the coffin skiff. Thrones toppling, green fire, a hall of wolf pillars. South, in King's Landing, webs of gold bind the realm. The small council hoards grain while riverlands starve. A hidden cabal sells red priests as oracles. And farther east, in the ashes of Valyria, shapes stir, sorcerers wearing molten masks, hungry for dragon blood. If their plots bear fruit, winter's victory was for naught. Mensotol. Bran's fingers brushed the coin. His eyes rolled white, and the ravens loosed a single unified caw. When his gaze returned, it held years beyond his own. Threads converge. A shadow in golden lion's garb climbs toward the throne room, dragging wildfire like chains. A priestess with eyes of ash tempts naive dragon seed across the narrow sea. And below the red keep, something wakes, a vault of faces, stolen and locked away, craving flesh. He shuddered. "If you are a prophet, you must cut those threads. Then Winterfell will provide the knife," Sansa declared. She clasped Arya's shoulder. "I'll send 20 spears under Daena, and gold enough to seat you at court. Podrick goes too. He is sworn to me but worships the ground you walk on." Arya squeezed her hand. "Keep the gold. Too bright, too traceable. I need only swift horses and men who trust shadows. Then shadows you shall have." They spent the afternoon planning beneath red leaves. Podrick arrived before dusk, gangly still but hardened by campaigns against broken men in the neck. He blushed scarlet when Arya named him captain of her escort. By late evening, ravens winged out bearing sealed missives, one to Lord Davos in White Harbor requesting passage by sea, another to Lady Asha on Pike, who owed Sansa a boon, and a third to Samwell Tarly in Old Town, seeking whispered lore of vaults that breathe. Bran insisted on one final rite. He wheeled to the heart tree's base, laid his palm on twisted bark, and murmured in the old tongue. Sap trickled like blood, and a root shifted, exposing a hollow. Inside lay an arrowhead of translucent ice that did not melt, though Bran's breath fogged the air. "This was given me by a spirit of the far north," he said. "Ice forged in the heart of what we once called enemy. Steel shatters on it. Flames quench before it. May it serve you." He balanced it carefully on Arya's upturned palm. The shard felt lighter than snowflake, yet buzzed like a hornet. She slid it into a narrow sheath sewn inside her boot. That night feasting rang in Winterfell's hall. Barley stew and roasted boar, and wheels of white cheese filled trestles. Arya sat beside Sansa, but she ate sparingly, listening to the cadence of voices, the half-hidden worries. Grain levies late. Southern taxes, strangling trade. Sightings of sell-sail fleets off the arbor. Each complaint mapped itself in her mind like pins on a leather chart. When the fiddlers packed away, and torches guttered low, she slipped out to stand atop the battlements where once she'd chased cats for Sirio's lessons. The night tasted of frost and wood smoke. Far below, the godswood whispered. A flutter sounded beside her. Not wings, cloth. Arya turned to find Jaqen leaning on the merlon, face that of a plump Dornish merchant she dimly recalled from Bravos' purple harbor. He smiled without greeting. You left. She crossed arms, half amused. But didn't. A man leaves many times in one night, yet arrives at dawn untroubled. He nodded toward the lights of the great hall. The north embraces its prophet quickly. Blood recognizes blood. She sobered. You heard Bran. Faces stolen, locked away. What vault? Whispers on warm winds speak of a rogue sect. Faceless in desire only. They hoard what should be given. It nests beneath the red keep, beyond the old dragon pits. We thought them rumor. His eyes darkened. If they are real, they defy the many-faced god. They must be unmasked. Then King's Landing first. Arya brushed hair from her eyes. Below, courtyard torches flickered, and shadows danced like ghosts trying on armor. Will you ride with us? For a time. He plucked a flake of mortar from the stone. Until the coin rolls beyond my reach. They departed Winterfell on a dawn washed clean by rain. Sansa stood by the hunter's gate in a mantle, the color of fresh fallen snow, bidding each rider safe journey. Bran watched from a tower window, ravens circling like black sparks against a pale sky. The escort numbered 24. Podrick, Daena Flint, 6 Mormont spearwives, archers from House Reed, and silent brother Rorik, a septon who had burned his crystal star to wear plain wool. Their banners were blank gray. No sigil, Sansa's idea, for prophets marched under truth, not heraldry. Southward they rode, hoofbeats drumming rhythm with Arya's pulse. They camped beneath the Barrowland's silent mounds, where cairn stones caught moonlight like teeth. One night, sleet hissed through the pines, and Daena coaxed humor from Podrick, until laughter warmed the camp more than fire. Another night, they met a column of pale refugees trudging north, with carts piled high with children and salted eels. From them, Arya learned that King's Landing seethed under new edicts. A faith tithe, a mask tax on foreign worship, and nightly curfews enforced by goldcloaks wearing black sashes marked with a lion and sunburst. The refugee spoke the name of Lord Arayn Waters, once the bastard of Driftmark, now styling himself hand after marrying Lady Marya Lannister, niece to the late Queen Cersei. Rumor named him cunning, hungry, and fond of wildfire. As they offered bread to the children, Arya met the gaze of an old woman whose eyes filmed with cataracts. The woman grasped Arya's wrist, nails sharp. Ghost of death, she rasped. Sing quiet. Arya pressed a coin of winter-mint silver into her palm, and the woman smiled, toothless. On the neck's southern verge, reeds parted to reveal Mira Reed standing knee-deep in black water, Greath harpoon across her back. She guided them by hidden causeways to Moat Caelin's fallen towers, where Jojen's bones rested in a cairn she tended with green candles. She gave Arya a pouch of frog skin containing 3 pale seeds. Crush these in water and paint your eyelids, Mira advised. You'll dream where spiders cannot weave. Farther south, Lord Davos met them at Sweetport Sound with the Laughing Lord, his sloop sleek as a silverfish. Weather forced them to anchor off the shields for 2 nights, and beneath rattling canvas Arya listened to Davos' quiet voice recount ships seized by water's new harbor guardians. Black sails, green flames, screams across the bay. The bastard of Driftmark now commanded 300 scorpions along the walls, each man by Selsail sworn to his Lady Lannister. My smuggler's bones smell storm, Davos murmured, gaze lost to rain-smeared dark. Quiet storms birth loud ruin. When the winds relented, they made sail, hugging beaches where beacons blazed. At night, the sky ahead glowed sullen, wildfire's sour gleam reflecting on low clouds. King's Landing rose not as a jewel, but a bruise. Walls patched with fresh quarried stone, towers pock-scarred. The Blackwater's mouth crawled with patrol galleys emblazoned lion and sunburst. Yet Davos whispered through his teeth to the helmsman, and under cover of early fog the Laughing Lord slipped between anchored hulks, tying up at a forgotten wharf beneath the hook. Disembarkation was swift. Arya, Podrick, Daena, brother Rorik, and 4 more months. The others would circle by land, posing as merchants until summoned. Jackin vanished down an alley moments after his boots hit cobbles, wearing the face of a dockside doxy's drunk patron. The city stank of tallow, ash, and fear. Notices fluttered on every post, proclamations banning masks after sundown, outlawing uncertified healers, doubling harbor fees. Men in half-black cloaks strutted with spears tipped by wildfire-burnished bronze. From a beggar, they learned that the Red Keep's great sept had been shuttered, its walls echoing with unseen construction. And every dusk, bells tolled thrice, whereupon doors slammed and torches flared green along the mudgate, warnings that curfew bit as sharply as crossbow bolts. They found refuge in the abandoned manse of a cloth trader long fled. As twilight seeped through cracked shutters, Arya laid out maps by guttering candle. Beneath the keep ran catacombs predating Aegon's conquest. Myth claimed Valyrian blood mages carved them. Bran's riddle of vaults that breathe must point there. She traced a route from the dragon pit's collapsed tunnels to a cistern beneath Rhaenys Hill. Daena exhaled low. Rats nest that deep grow as big as ponies. Then we'll teach ponies to fear wolf teeth. Arya rolled the map. Tonight, we scout. Brother Rorik produced a satchel of torches, dipped in pitch, laced with basilisk oil. These burn smokeless, he assured. Podrick checked crossbow tensions, muttering, I always end up in sewers with Starks. They departed after midnight, cloaks dark and silent, slipping through gullies of shadow. The entrance lay behind a crumbling sept gutted during the Faith militant uprising, now a haunt for drunk sellswords. 2 lounged by the broken doors, passing a waterskin. Arya brushed Podrick's elbow. He nodded. A thrown pebble clinked behind the men. When they turned, Arya slid forward, needle's point kissing first throat. The second staggered, gagging as Daena's dirk found his spine. They eased bodies into rubble and pressed on. The stairs slanted steep into clammy dark. Moist air breathed upward, vaults that breathed. Torches hissed awake, staining walls ochre. Around a bend, they found the first face. It hung upon a wooden peg, a woman's visage, eyes closed, skin tanned and supple, though no body supported it. Below, script in Valyrian glyphs curled across the wall. Arya read enough to grasp 2 repeating symbols: price, power. More pegs followed. Faces of child, crone, lord, beggar, each labeled with glyphs. The corridor widened into a gallery where rows upon rows of visages stared sightless. Podrick swallowed. 7, save us. Brother Rorik crossed himself. This is no shrine. It's a market. Footsteps echoed. Arya whipped round, torch casting knife-long shadows. From the far arch stepped figures in sable robes, stitched with sunbursts. No masks hid their sneers. Instead they bore brands seared upon foreheads. Rings within rings, the Lannister lion coiled by a fiery halo. The first man raised a rod of gold, set with a shard of obituary glass. Thieves, he hissed. Our Lady forbids trespass. Arya advanced, needle low. Your lady steals what cannot be owned. These faces belong to the God of many. Return them or drown in shadows. They laughed, a harsh clang of bravado. A wolf playing prophet. I. Cute. Lord Waters pays in dragons for every skin we cast. Green fire boils slow. Faces peel sweet. His rod clicked against stone. Kiln slits opened along the walls, vents belching acrid heat. Inside, iron braziers flared emerald. A pocket of wildfire forges. Daena loosed an arrow, felling one robed man. Chaos erupted. Podrick's quarrel punched through another's chest. Brother Rorik swung his torch, flames licking. Arya danced between glints, needle threading ribs. Yet more poured from side tunnels, wielding hooked tongs glowing red. One caught Arya's sleeve. Searing cloth. She spun, kicking the tongman into a brazier. Green tongues engulfed him, scream cut short. But numbers pressed. A gong thundered deeper within, summoning guards by the score. Arya hurled her torch onto rows of faces. Oils there caught fire, orange racing into green. An inferno roared to life, smoke choking. She signaled retreat. They fought step by step, heat blistering skin. At the stairwell, Podrick dragged Daina, bleeding from a thigh gash. Brother Rorik barred the passage with a fallen beam, then doused it in basilisk oil. Flames leapt. Ceiling pursuit. Above ground, dawn bled coral. Ash-fouled smoke billowed from cracks in Rhaenys' hill, curling into the waking sky. Bells clanged alarm, and gold cloaks surged downhill. But Arya's band melted into alleys, faces blackened, eyes searing with purpose. Back at the manse, Jaqen awaited, wearing his own half-white smile. "A market burns," he said. The coin rings louder. Arya slumped against a pillar, lungs raw. "We saved some faces, but far from all. Waters will tighten nets. Prophets break nets." Jaqen tossed her a folded scrap, the same parchment she'd burned days ago. Yet the words differed. Below the throne, a deeper vault. Keys etched in lion's tongue. "Strike when the city kneels to light." He shrugged. A whisper from a sparrow long caged. Daina hissed as Podrick stitched her wound. "The city kneels festival day. First full moon of summer. They light 10,000 candles at the great septi." "Or wildfire," Podrick muttered. Arya stood, fatigue melting into grim resolve. "Then on festival night we end this." Faces returned, vaults ashes, and waters unmasked for every soul to see. Outside, the city's clamor grew. Bells, shouts, hammering boots. Yet amid the tumult, Arya felt calm as snowfall. The many-faced god's hand pressed small against her back, guiding her forward into flame-lit prophecy. Somewhere north a wolf pack raised their muzzles, and in distant halls of the free cities, candles bent toward unseen drafts. Names gathered like storm clouds, endings sharpened. Arya Stark, in whose eyes winter and death and dawn commingled, smiled, because the story had only begun to bare its teeth. Night seeped from the warrens of King's Landing like ink from an overturned inkwell, staining every crooked alley and shattered cobblestone. In the hours between sunset and the first toll of curfew bells, the city held its breath. Lanterns shuttered, doors barred, and a hush, uneasy and brittle, fell over the dens of Flea Bottom and the winding lanes of the Blackwater Rush. Yet the hush could not muffle the heartbeat of fear that throbbed from the Red Keep's ramparts, the fear of secrets buried in catacombs and truths that could detonate like wildfire beneath the realm's fragile peace. In the abandoned manse, Arya traced the plan across a wax-stained plank that served as their map table. Brother Rorik stood beside her, brown eyes luminous in torchlight, as if reflecting his devotion's embers. Daina Flint's wand had been bound with honey-soaked linen, and she now leaned against a pillar, sharpening her spearhead with a rasp of iron on whetstone. Podrick organized coils of hempen rope, crossbow bolts, and a leather roll of picks and narrow blades, tools of the acrobat, the thief, and the assassin. The others, silent and tense, kept watch at cracked shutter slats. Outside, patrol boots clicked on pavement. The trumpets would soon call the curfew. Time dwindled. Arya spoke low. "The festival is 3 nights hence. By dawn, Waters will announce his bride's heirloom charter, crowning House Lannister's new claim to rule the Crownlands independent of the Iron Throne. That will draw nobles to the Red Keep's feast hall. Meanwhile, the small folk gather beneath the hill to release sky lanterns and light flame flowers at every crossroad. Fire and smoke will mask our descent into the deeper vault. Then Transiu." Brother Rorik unfurled a grease-smeared parchment depicting tunnels as ancient as Valyria's first foothold. Spiral stairs, labyrinthine corridors converging at a chamber carved in the shape of a lion's head. 3 storm locks guard the lion's maw. Each lock is a dial inscribed with high Valyrian riddles. My novice grasp will not solve them quickly. We won't solve them. We'll bypass them. Podrick slid a slim rod of hammered silver onto the table. Maester Orlan calls it star steel, hammered thin in White Harbor. It cracks hinges without a sound. Once we wedge it into the lock's throat, a twist shears the tumbler teeth. 5 heartbeats later, there is no lock. Betty. Dana snorted approval. Starsteel? Who's counting the cost? Sansa is. Arya's lips curved. She would ransom a kingdom to end this rot. But let's steal the keys anyway. 3 ways in case Starsteel fails. She set 3 wax-sealed packets upon the plank. Each holds a different truth. Wildfire in a tear-glass sphere, the dust of basilisk oil soaked into wick flax, and a coin bearing the many-faced god's knot. 1 truth per lock. Lindandi. Brother Rorik made the 7th sign despite himself. A prayer before we embark. Arya laid a steady hand upon his. Pray if you must, but not to stay our purpose. The God we serve tonight has many faces, and one unbreakable vow. Those faces taken below must be set free, or the lion's hunger will devour more than skins. He bowed, shadows shrouding his humble devotion, as though the torch fire itself bent in solemn consent. The next nights bled away. Whisper networks rippled through cobbled streets as Arya's band planted seeds of rumor. Counterfeit broadsheets praising Waters' royal generosity, flicker drawings that promised a grand fireworks display atop Visenya's hill, and whispered tales of free bread to be distributed at the Moongate. The city teetered between hunger and hope. Lantern makers fashioned skylights from oiled parchment. Bakers hoarded flour to transform into festival cakes. Every promised delight was another mask, another distraction. Come the festival eve, Arya and her companion slipped into motley disguises. Podrick wore the apron of a half-drunk cooper, Dana the shawl of a fishwife, Brother Rorik a threadbare septon's robe smeared with ash. Arya donned rags soiled with lampblack, hair matted with river mud, an urchin of no importance. Only needle and the shard of ice hid within. They blended into throngs streaming through the muddy lanes, each reveler brandishing a taper or a torch. On the high road to the Hill of Rainies, gold cloaks in lion and sunburst sashes searched passers-by for contraband blades. Yet the press of celebrants grew so dense that the guards, nervous and sweating, waved many through unchecked. Smoke curled from braziers, where vendors roasted chestnuts and salted mutton. The night glowed orange, lantern light mingling with bonfires. At the first toll of the festival bells, fireworks burst overhead, green comets clawing the darkness, red dragons twisting and hissing. The crowd gasped, forgetting hunger, forgetting curfew. Arya's heart pounded at every emerald flash. She smelled wildfire's taint on the wind. Dana nudged her. We break from the path by the Butterwell. It falls downhill toward an abandoned granary. That leads to the old cistern. Da. Arya's eyes glittered. And through that throat, we breathe storms. They slid from the main flow, drifting like dandelion seeds away from the bonfire's reach. Brother Rorik whispered a phony benediction to distract a watchman, while Podrick cracked his cooper's stave on a cobblestone, feigning drunken frustration to turn more eyes. By the time suspicion awoke, they had vanished through a rotted postern into the granary's shadow. Inside, grain hoppers lay choked with spider webs, stinking of rat droppings. The trapdoor in the floor had been nailed shut, with rust-clotted spikes. Podrick's star-steel rod pried each free in silence. They heaved the door aside to reveal a spiral staircase sinking into raw earth. Lanterns were forbidden. Too bright, too risky. Dana struck a bit of phosphorus between iron teeth. Its ghostly glow was faint, but enough. Down they went, 40, 50, 60 feet, until the staircase debouched into a circular chamber with brickwork, slick from centuries of condensation. Masonry arches radiated from the center like the spokes of a wheel. In the middle sat a rusted iron grate, through which stagnant water gleamed. Brother Rorik knelt, muttering prayers. "This is the cistern's heart," he said. "Those arches lead to catacomb strata carved in the 1st century after the conquest. Which path holds the lion's vault?" Podrick produced Bran's parchment, which Arya had memorized until she saw it in her dreams. The throat of the world-weary lion opens westward when moonlight strikes the last scale of the dragon's tail. West, It must mean the arch whose keystone bore an eroded lion face. Arya led them through. Beyond that arch, the descent steepened. Carved steps gave way to natural rock. Here, the air changed, cold, metallic, tinged with the electric smell before a lightning storm. Arya tasted prophecy's copper on her tongue. The tunnel emptied into a huge cavern whose walls glimmered with mica, throwing back faint reflections of their glowstone. On the cavern's far side, 3 iron doors flashed in the weak light. Each door flanked by a carved lion rampant, its mane a tangle of runes. "Stormlocks," Brother Rorik murmured. "The Lady Lannister invests in dread." He studied the runes. The riddles read, "That which devours all things, that which adorns all kings, that which divides all men. Time, crown, faith? No, different dialect." "No time," Arya said. She motioned Podrick forward. Star steel slid into the first lock's throat. A twist. A brittle crack. Yet instead of swinging open, the heavy door spat powdery frost, a curse-bound ward triggered by violation. Ice crystals blossomed across the iron, and the lock sealed shut, runes pulsing indigo dotty. Diana cursed. One chance lost. Dot. Arya withdrew the tear-glass orb of wildfire from its cloth wrapping. Hearts of kings burn. So do their doors. She pressed the orb into a socket between lion's claws, then backed away. Podrick flicked a flint. A single spark grazed the orb. Fire ignited within, ghostly green, stretching cracks through the glass. A muted hiss, then the orb shattered outward, splashing sticky flame over the door. Iron heated, glowed, warped like tallow. With a shriek, the ward runes guttered. Arya kicked the door. It crumbled inward, releasing a gust of bone-cold air. Beyond lay a narrow passage that opened into a vault of impossible architecture, a honeycomb of niches supported by twisted pillars. Each niche held a face its own. Thousands upon thousands, more than Arya had ever imagined, staring blankly at eternity. Glass tubes fed a sour-smelling blue vapor along the ceiling, keeping the skin supple. At the vault's center stood a dais bearing a throne of fused brass and lion claws. Seated there, draped in sable trimmed with gold, was Arya Waters himself, or what remained of him. His once handsome face was pale, gaunt, and he wore a gilded mask over half his features, as if preserving youth while rot spread beneath. Sunburst-crested pauldrons adorned his shoulders. He clutched a goblet brimming with wildfire, a drink of madness. 2 guards in black lion mantles stood at the foot of the dais, glaives crossed. Arya's voice echoed, brittle as glass. "Prophet, they call you. Do you prophesy your own death?" Arya stepped forward, needle catching stray torchlight. "I prophesy the death of stolen faces and stolen thrones. Yield the vault, or your flames devour you." He laughed. A cracked rattle. "My flames? No, little wolf. You see only antechambers. Beneath this dais, a reservoir brims with the dragon's breath. One spark from my cup, and the hill of Rhaenys becomes a second field of fire. King and beggar alike will kneel to my ashes." "Then," Brother Rorik's whisper trembled. "He's mad." Arya raised the goblet. Green tongues licked its rim. "Bow to Lady Maria's charter. Swear House Stark's neutrality. I let you leave with your pretty skins intact." Arya's gaze flicked to Podrick and Daena. Their eyes mirrored her plan. No surrender. She felt the shard of ice in her boot vibrate. The ancient weapon, given by a spirit of the north, yearned for release. She slipped it free, its translucent edges refracting emerald fire. "This is the many-faced gift," she said, "and it chooses no master but justice." Arya's sneer faltered as she advanced. His guards shifted. Before they could act, Daena flung a basilisk oil wick toward the left guard's greave. Sparks scattered. The oil flared. The guard screamed, collapsing in a blossom of blue flame. Podrick's crossbow coughed. The second guard staggered back, bolt lodged in throat. Arya hurled the wildfire goblet. Green fire arced toward Arya, but she swayed aside, ice shards slicing the air. Where its blade touched flame, the wildfire guttered, freezing mid-flight into a brittle crystalline mist. It shattered on the dais tiles. Arain gasped. What sorcery? A gift from the heart of winter, Arya said, and sprang. Needle flicked. Arain swung a dirk crusted with jewels. Steel rang dartwall. Yet her dance was water, her blade a whisper. She slipped inside his guard, drove the ice shard into the gilded mask. Frost bloomed across gold, racing under his skin. Arain choked as veins crusted white, his eyes iced over. She yanked the shard free. He toppled, corpse glassy, limbs cracking. Brother Rorik knelt beside a floor valve, bronze carved like a lion's maw. Ow. Wildfire gurgled beneath. If this reservoir ignites, the city. Podrick produced the many-faced coin. The coin speaks loudly. He wedged it into the valve's mouth. Runes glimmered, then dimmed. A soft sigh. As though the vault itself exhaled. The lion's maw sealed. Vapors, ebbing overhead, slowed, then stopped. Daena leaned on her spear. Faces first. We free them. Hours blurred. They cut skins from hooks, rolled them into linen sacks, working by the faint gleam of Rorik's glowstone. Each face bore a name carved on a wooden tag. Innocence ripped from flea-bottom children, wisdom stolen from septas, lies peeled from courtiers. Arya felt each weight like a personal history returned. By dawn they had filled 20 sacks. How do we carry this to the temple? Podrick asked, wiping grime from his brow. We don't. Arya touched the vault wall. We give them to the wind. She removed a final face, a boy of 13, hope still etched in thin lips, and pressed it to stone. Whispering the Valyrian invocation taught by the kindly man, she offered the boy's name to the air. The wall breathed, pores opening. Then the face dissolved into water and vanished. She repeated the rite. One by one the faces melted into mist, each sighing free. Vapor spiraled upward, ghost columns escaping through unseen fissures, slipping toward morning skies. Brother Rorik wept softly, hoarse prayers catching on every name. When the last niche stood empty, the vault seemed lighter, as if grief itself had lifted. Arya turned. The many-faced god accepts. Now we seal this place. Damn. They gathered wildfire orbs from fallen guards, placed them at the 3 iron doors, and retreated beyond the tunnel's bend. Arya used the shard of ice to spark friction. Flame for a breath, then green bloom, doors belching molten iron. Tunnels trembled, sagging. They ran, vault collapsing behind. Stone crashed, dust gusted. Back in the cistern heart, water surged through cracks, quenching heat. Podrick shoved the iron grate aside. They splashed into the tank, swam down a dark pipe that spilled into a drainage trench beyond the city walls. Dawn's copper light greeted them as they hauled onto a muddy bank south of the Blackwater. From that vantage, they watched Rhaenys' Hill shudder. A gout of black smoke rose where underground chambers imploded. But no wildfire consumed the city, only dust, drifting like ash petals across rooftops. Daena exhaled ragged laughter. We killed the lion's hunger. And so the prophecy walks, Arya murmured. She faced the wind, hair streaming. Yet other threads remain. Brother Rorik gazed skyward. Among clouds, he saw misty silhouettes of faces merging, forming the endless knot before dispersing to dawn. News of Arain Water's demise spread like brushfire. Gold cloaks discovered his ice-sculpted corpse, seated on the brass throne. Lady Maria fainted, her lion sunburst banners cut down by frightened servants. Without Water's bribery, sail captains deserted, galleys weighing anchor for the free cities. Small folk gathered in the streets, lighting candles not of celebration but of vigil for the vanished faces, unaware their loved ones' spirits drifted free above them. Arya and her companions sheltered in a river hut until dusk. Stretching wounds, they planned. The Red Keep will seek scapegoats, Podrick warned. We must vanish beyond their reach. Not vanish. Shift, Arya corrected. Prophecy leads east next. Bran's vision spoke of dragon whispers. A priestess with ash eyes lures dragon seed. One of Daenerys' distant kin? Daena guessed. Or a pretender. Arya fixed on the horizon where gulls wheeled over the gullet. We sail at once. White Harbor's merchant ships call at Duskendale within days. Davos can secure us passage. Brother Rorik frowned. And King's Landing's fate? The people have their chance to breathe. Sansa will send Lord Davos south with grain barges and a delegation. I am not their queen. She touched Needle's hilt. I am the voice that reminds kings they may die. They trekked north along the river's edge, avoiding patrols. On the third day, smoke shadows no longer marred the hill. Only scaffolds and frantic masons remained. There, whispers claimed, a girl with wolf-gray eyes had walked into darkness and stolen the moon's face. Some breathed the tale in awe, others in dread. The faith militant called it blasphemy. But the many-faced god cared not for frightened sermons. Duskendale's harbor smelled of tar and lilies. Davos awaited at the end of a broken pier, the laughing lord rocking gently. He greeted Arya with a smuggler's grin. Trouble follows you like gulls chase a herring cart, my lady. Not trouble, she answered, stepping aboard. Tide. Within an hour. Sails billowed. The ship turned east, sun-glittering wake stretching behind them like the curve of Needle's blade. Podrick leaned over rail, sea spray in hair, as Dana stood sentinel at the prow. Brother Rorik retreated below to patch souls with prayers. On deck, Jaqen emerged from nowhere, wearing the face of an unremarkable deckhand. He leaned beside Arya on the stern rail, eyes on the fading cliffs of Westeros. The coin has rolled far. It will roll farther, she said, to smoke beyond the green seas. And when it rests, it never will. She traced the endless knot engraved on her memory. But someday, perhaps, the faces of those lost will shine bright enough that men need no prophet to remember death. Until then, I walk. Meum? Jaqen nodded, turning to gaze eastward, where the sky darkened, and distant storms flickered violet. A girl walks. A man walks. The god watches. Waves slapped wood with steady rhythm. Stars pierced dusk overhead, reflecting in Arya's eyes like fragments of a shattered crown. Beside her, the shard of ice, sheathed now in a leather scabbard, gleamed faintly, a reminder of the cold truths she carried. Ahead lay storms, dragons, and volatile faith. She did not tremble. In the hold, the freed faces slept, reunited with the wind. On deck, the prophet of many faces watched night rise from the sea. She inhaled brine, tasted possibility, and exhaled a promise to ghosts and gods alike. No lie, no tyrant, no stolen name would endure the edge of winter's quiet blade.